You are tuned into the Power Chord Hour right here on 107.9 WRFA, as well as maybe tuned into the Power Chord Hour podcast. However you're listening to this, thanks for tuning in. We got returning guest, and I did not realize how long it had been until I thought about it earlier. Been quite a while, but we have Chelsea of Stress Dolls back here with me, and this time with video podcast. If you're watching the video podcast element of this, got a new actually debut full length from Stress Dolls, Queen of No. It's going to be out everywhere May 17th on Sun Pedal Recordings. We're going to talk some new music and catch up with Chelsea, because again, like beginning of 2022, I think we talked, and now it's like not beginning of 2022.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been that long. What's really funny is to think is because at the beginning of 2022, it's when that one EP came out, and that's when the band and I played our first show all together, and I thought it was going to be a one-time thing, and then it was not. And the other day we were talking about it, and we couldn't believe it's been over 2 years that we've been all playing together, because it does not feel like it's been that long. Isn't that weird?
It is, because I was going to ask you that, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, if I'm remembering the interview correctly, I'm like, I'm pretty sure the lineup of Stress Dolls right now, like, was like starting around that time. I was trying to like think. I didn't go back and like listen to it, but I'm like, if I remember that correctly, I'm like pretty sure she's like talking about this being like a new lineup, and maybe us even talking about like, will this be a continuation? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was, because those were all the people who played on that EP. And so it was like, oh, okay, well, let's just play the show all together. It will be fun to have a full band sound. Because as you know, at that point, I had been doing the solo thing for the last like at least a couple years or whatever. I was just like, strictly solo, and sometimes duo with Sally, but mostly just by myself. So we thought it would be fun just for the release show. I remember advertising it. It's like one time only, one night only. False. One night only.
Like the farewell tour that goes through your city 5 times in a year.
Yeah, can't be more grateful though. It worked out. I'm really stoked to be playing with these people. It's super fun.
I mean, I can attest. I mean, I just saw you live a couple weeks ago here for the second time too. It's the second time I've seen the lineup live, and yeah, really, you were good the first time too, but you sounded really tight this time as well. Sounds like a band who's been playing together for a while, so it's paid off, I think, the last few years.
Thank you. Yeah, we've reached, I feel like, at least I always worry I'm going to jinx myself. Like I'll say something like this, and the next show it's going to be like, oh my God. Oh, no. I feel like though we've really reached a comfortability with playing together. It's because it's always growing pains, just getting to know each other and how you play and how it all works and getting enough practices in, whatever. But finally, I think this year in particular, it just started to feel really good, where we get on stage, and I think, I don't know, I can at least say this, and I feel like some of my other bandmates have said this as well. At first, it's like you're really trying to keep up with everybody else. You're trying to keep to your parts. You're trying to remember all your parts. And I mean, obviously I knew the parts because I'm writing the songs, but just to like even have it match up with everybody and have it all cohesive. And now I feel like we're in the stage where we're just on stage and we're having fun.
You can just enjoy it now.
Exactly. It's like we're looking at each other, we kind of goof around, and it's fun. So I'm glad that we're at that part of playing together.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I don't think realize that sometimes with bands like that, being able to connect and stuff. I was even playing with a friend not a month or so ago, and just first time playing with each other. And it's not anxiety, but it's like, you're trying to read. You can't just read each other. You don't just go pick up an instrument, play with someone else, and just automatically click like that. Like that takes work. Like, so when it works for a band, or you can continue that now, like with you for a few years, like that means something. You can't just pick up 3 people and just like make it work automatically. It doesn't magically happen.
Yeah, no, you're right. You definitely just have to, I think all it is you just have to keep playing together. And I think in general, the live setting always helps, because you can practice obviously in a non-live setting, and that's all good, well and good. But when you are actually at the show,
oh yeah,
that's where it really starts to make sense. And especially like in front of other people, where the tension is a little higher and whatever. Like, so to kind of get over that hump is important.
You can't stop mid-song and go, no, wait, what'd you just do? Like, wait, where'd you just go?
I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be it might be frowned upon. I remember, this is really random, but do you know who Eric Burden is?
No.
Okay, he's the lead singer. I don't know if he was the lead songwriter. I feel like another person was, but the Animals band from the 60s,
Yeah,
British
yeah, yeah.
Invasion. So I know Eric Burdon because my dad, that's
Cool.
his hero, right? So we saw Eric Burdon years ago. I was probably in high school. He played at this outdoor venue. And I mean, he was much older by this point, obviously. But I remember he started a song and he got maybe like 30 seconds to a minute in. And then he was just like, stop, stop. He was like, I'm messing up the words. We're starting it over. And so then he started it again. And then he messed up again.
Oh no.
But then they kind of like just kind of powered through it. But I thought that was pretty funny. I'm like, wow, I've at that point in my life, I was like, I have never seen anything like this. Like, going to see this
Yeah.
professional show and somebody like stopping the song. I thought it was it's obviously a memory that's stuck in my brain.
I can't say I don't think I've ever seen that surprise. I can't say I have a story like that. That I guess that takes a little confidence though too. I think I would be a little I don't know. I think I'd be too I mean, like I was telling you with the guitars behind me, it's like I don't think I'd be on stage. I think everyone would be very mad at me if all of a sudden I stopped a minute in. I'd be thinking way too much about it.
Yeah, you just power through, or you try to. I guess if it's really that horrible, you stop. But let's hope it never comes to that point.
Well, let's talk new music again. Got a new record coming out, Queen of No, which actually, if listening to a radio show, release day. So if you're as I'm talking, it's not release day, but if you're listening on a radio show, happy release day, Chelsea.
Woo,
Happy release
thank
day
you.
for the new album. I mean, obviously, it's your debut full length, but we've had John talk about EPs. You got singles, far from your first release. But does it feel any different, like putting out? Because I know it's your first full length, but it's not your first release. Like, does it feel any different putting this one out? Is there anything about it that feels anything that might not be how you normally release when you like release an EP or something?
Yeah, I think I would say I guess it feels different just in that I've to have that many songs. So there's technically 11 songs were recorded. 10 of them are originals, and that's kind of what I consider the record, or the 10 that were original. And the extra is a cover of Because of the Night by Patti Smith and Bruce Springsteen, which actually just got released as a single last Friday. I think I've never had this many songs to work with as singles. You know what I mean? Like ahead of the release. Like usually it's like the whole thing is 4 songs long. It's not like you're like, like, okay, well, here's 4 songs from an upcoming record that has even more songs on it. It's like, no, here's like 1 song and then we'll just release the entire thing because like there's only a few more to work with. I know now, that said, like, I don't know, releasing music has become so different where it's like, I feel like now a lot of bands don't even necessarily release the entire record at once anyway. It's like they'll almost release it in portions or like just single by single by single and waterfall it down. I don't know. So yeah, I guess if that answers your question, it feels different. I think I'm really excited for it in a new way just because this is my first time working with an indie label, so that's been a new experience. And just like the other day we finished the album packaging, and
Nice.
and I will say, like, it was cool just to see, like, because growing up, I was so obsessed with looking at CDs. I know people love vinyl, but for me, as a child of the late '90s, early 2000s, CDs were king, right? So I would just like pore over my CDs and look at all the liner notes and be like, checking them out, and to see like I guess a record of mine that now has like a little catalog number on the spine of the CD. I mean, that was a cool moment for me. I know it's like a small thing, but it's like, oh wow, like all the CDs I had growing up always had like a little catalog number from the record label on the side. And I don't know. I just think it's kind of a neat I don't know, a neat, like, what's the word I'm searching for? Guess like mile marker or something. I'm not sure if I ever knew that would happen. So to have that happen, and no matter what happens next, it's like, well, that's really cool.
No, it is really neat. You're right. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I really get into records till I was 18. It was CDs all the way, like growing up. So like you're saying, yeah, like same kind of era. And it's like, yeah, that would mean something to me to see it, see your on the side. I don't know if you call it, I guess it's not the spine. I guess that's like the spine of the record or whatever. I don't know if you call that on the CD, but
yeah, I don't know. The only thing I can think of to call it is a spine. So I guess that's
okay, then good. Yeah, the spine.
I'll refer to it. Yeah, the spine. Yeah.
No, that's very neat. How about I do like the name of it, Queen of No. That's pretty a good album title. Did the title come first, the album track, or the should I say title track? Which
The
came
song
first?
came first.
Song came first.
Yeah, I wrote that song. Let's see. So how do you want me to explain how this all kind of
I would love to
happened?
hear it. Yeah,
How it came to
let's
be?
hear this.
Okay. So rewinding way back, actually around the time we last spoke, the beginning of 2022, I had gotten an email from Jim Wirt, who is a producer. People may be familiar with his work from all of the Something Corporate records, a majority of the Jack's Mannequin albums. That's at least what rang a bell when I looked him up. But he's also worked with Incubus on some of their early stuff. He worked with Fiona Apple on her album Tidal. He was in those sessions. So he has a really cool resume. When I got the email, frankly, I thought it was kind of spam or something. Like, because you get, as a musician, you get so many weird emails that are like, oh, like, we want to help you, and if you just do X, Y, and Z, or pay us $1,000, like, we'll do, and it's just all BS. So I kind of saw it and was thinking, like, this is just some other weird BS email. But it obviously was in the back of my head, because once I was looking at this guy, I'm like, I don't know, is this legit, is it not? Like, it was so random. So long story short, finally did reach out to this email, replied, and it turned out it was a legitimate request. He had heard some of the music. I think it was particularly crazy, and was interested in potentially working together. And through conversations, I learned that he was associated with this label, with Some Pedal Recordings, which is actually an imprint of Tragic Hero music, and Tragic Hero works with several labels. Sun Pedal is one of them. So I then was put in touch with the label head, and he invited me to Cleveland, where they were located, to cut a few songs and see how it all would work. Like, if I got along with Jim, if they liked the material enough to sign me. So I went and we recorded Alone, Ghostwriter, and Body. And then I went home and they reviewed it and they liked it, and they said they wanted to offer me a deal. So it's like, cool. That's neat. But then we weren't going to record the rest of the record. That was like, I think we recorded that in April, those 3 songs, I want to say, like early April. And we weren't going to have time to record the rest of the record until August. So like in that period, I was still writing a lot. And that's when I wrote Queen of No. And the song is about basically rejection and feeling delusional for pursuing anything in the arts, and just feeling like all you ever get is no. So I thought it was kind of fun to make that the whole point of the album, because this is probably like not the one time, but this is one of those times where it's like, oh wow, there was a yes. And it worked after like a decade of reaching out to labels and trying and whatever. It's like, something happened, and I couldn't be more grateful. So that's the story behind the title.
I love it. It's a great it's a great album title, and it's a great title track as well. Really good title track. Is it like, it's kind of, maybe it's a very easy thing, but like, even like the titling this one, or really just titling an EP or whatever, like, is that ever difficult, or is it normally like, do you get it just right away, something hits you, or is this something where you got like 20 working titles on a board, and it's like truly a hard thing to like, kind of figure out what one you want to go with?
I think actually, now that you're saying that, this is the first release I've ever put out where the title is actually a song title as well. Most of them usually have been phrases or something that came to mind like during the process of creating the record. Like with my band Wolf forever ago, It's Electric was our EP. That was just because when we were recording, that was my first EP that wasn't me playing acoustic guitar the whole time. It was, switching to electric guitars, and we were just goofballs. So it's like, oh, It's Electric. Somehow that seemed like a good title. Pain is a Season, that other EP I put out, was based off of some advice a friend had given me, and that whole EP, the whole content was kind of about like my health struggles and stuff, and so I thought that was an appropriate title. Like Forward was intentionally not about my health struggles, so that's why it's called Forward, because it's like I'm not thinking about that stuff anymore. But yeah, Queen of No, there was only like a few other titles I potentially had in mind that were not song titles, but this one just seemed to make the most sense to me, and I liked that it was like a song on the record that you could associate. And it's kind of cool too, I think, that that song is not a single ahead of the release, but it's still like a focus track.
Yeah. It's a really good song. How about like it's a very the I would say the album's really well sequenced. Everything really like flows well into each other. Like was that much of anything? Did that all kind of come together pretty easy, or is that another one where you had to kind of like play with the track listing and go back and forth? Like there's a couple, and I'll be honest, I'm blanking on names, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
I want to say it's the song before Crazy, but that one into Crazy, I think. So there's like things like that are very well. I think they go really well into each other. Like, was it easy to sequence this? Was there a couple like was there altering it at all before the one we have like the finalized track listing?
Illusion, which is the song before Crazy, was actually intentionally written as an intro into Crazy, but it was written 2 years after Crazy or something, or even more than that. I just
Oh,
was
really?
fooling around my guitar one day and I came up with Illusion. I was like, oh, this sounds like something that has to do with the exact same lyrical idea as Crazy. That's why those two are always next to each other. And live, we usually always sequence them next to each
Oh,
other.
is that one of those ones where you can't have one without the other?
Pretty much, yeah, that's how I've treated it. But the rest of the record, as you know, well, I work in radio too. And I do the regional music show. But even before working in radio, I've always liked making playlists. Like I loved burning CDs for my
Oh
friends.
yeah.
And I just love sequencing stuff in an order that kind of takes you through a musical journey, because I do love albums and I really dig when I can listen to an album front to back and not stop. Like I just love when it takes you on kind of a ride, whether that be like, oh, okay, like we're starting off really strong, like in your face, and we kind of get to like the more introspective parts, then we come back strong again. Then like the last track sometimes is really sad or it's triumphant. So I think that I like making a sequence of a record, and making this one wasn't, I don't know, I guess it's challenging because it's your own work and you want it to be the best it can be. But I felt like it just sort of naturally came together. I felt like the singles should probably be in the beginning, and then from there it's like Illusion, Crazy, and just kind of trying to sequence it where, like, because I do tend to use a lot of the same chords and my voice isn't very dynamic. So I try to pair things together that aren't going to sound totally the same, like one after the other. You know what I mean? It's
A
like,
bunch of
okay,
songs in C back to back to back, things like that.
yeah, exactly. It's like, because I mean, I know this about myself. It's like a lot of the songs do have like similar chord structures and stuff. So it's like, okay, well, I don't want then those three songs to be like all in a row where it's like, okay, like, because sometimes that works where it, like you're saying, Illusion into Crazy, it's like it makes sense for them to be paired together. But when you want a song almost to have its own separate identity and like idea, I don't feel like you necessarily want it to be like, oh, that's just kind of a big glob of things that sound exactly the same. Like,
That's that glob part of the record. That 4-song glob.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, but I'm happy with the way it's come together. I'm excited for people to hear it.
So was this recorded then in 2 sessions altogether?
It was. Mm-hmm.
And then how long was that? Because would you say the initial one, how many days was that? Like a day in the studio or
That was 3 songs in 4 days.
4 days?
And then we had what, 8 songs left. So, and I think we did those in 10 days. It was like 8 songs in 10 days. So we were at the studio for, I think I would usually get there around 9 a.m., 10 a.m. maybe. And, typically wouldn't leave until around 6 or so. So it wasn't like I know some people will tell the stories like, oh, we were in the studio from like 9 a.m. to like 4 in the morning. And it's like, well, no, we were, we all wanted to like get sleep and, but yeah, it was really cool to have that kind of an immersive experience. I think obviously when I've recorded in the past, and especially because I'm at home in Buffalo and because I was paying for it myself, I wasn't really able to have an immersive experience because, like, you can only afford so much time to be at the studio, and also everyone has day jobs, and you're not taking the time off when you're in the home base of where you're actually doing the recording. But to be like going out of town and having that be the only thing to focus on was it was so cool. It was really nice to be able to be in that headspace every day, because then like you really feel like you can get it all done in a way that feels satisfying and like where because it's your only thing. It's the only thing you're thinking about every single day. And I mean, even though some of it drove me nuts, Jim is a total perfectionist. So the guitars were the hardest part. Like we would do a guitar part for, I kid you not, maybe like it'd be a 5-second thing. It's like, okay, stop, retune. Okay, stop, retune, retune. It drove me insane. But that said, it sounds amazing. There's a reason why that perfectionism pays off. Yeah, it was really cool.
It is like, and I mean, again, like, I mean, it is, I would say, your best sounding album. Like, I feel like the strongest. Yeah, it's one of those, like, probably a pain in the ass when it's happening, but like, I think it pays off in the end. What you hear on the record came out really well.
Thank you.
It seems like you just talked about it, but yeah, like even that idea of, I'm sure it has to be different where like when you're home, like, you know, those things can come up where you have studio time, but you might still have other obligations and things you got to do. Where when you're in Cleveland, I mean, maybe you're not like, you know, across the country, but you can't really just get home and go do other things. There's not the distractions of everyday life. Like, I'm sure that alone is just kind of different, you know, that whole experience.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know anyone else in the area aside from the people I was working with. So it's like when the day would end, well, first of all, I'd be exhausted. So I would just go back to the Airbnb and crash. But second of all, it's like there was really nothing else to do aside from go back to the Airbnb and crash. So it all worked out.
You guys have started kind of playing in Cleveland, haven't you? You've played up there a few times now, right?
Yeah, we have, and it's been fun. We're actually going to be there again at the end of May. We're going a little mini tour, Cleveland, nice. Fort Wayne, Chicago.
Oh, very nice. You're hitting is that the first time for Indiana and Illinois?
First time for Illinois. Indiana, I played Muncie once solo.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was actually a really cool time. I had never been to Muncie, but that's where Bob Ross filmed his show.
Really?
And there's a whole museum of where his studio was, and I loved that because I love Bob Ross.
You'd stop at Sweetwater, did you? I've stopped there a couple times driving through Indiana. That's my stop, Sweetwater.
I did not stop at Sweetwater, but actually, fun story. We got this Indiana show because a friend of my boyfriend, he worked at Sweetwater for years, and so he still has a lot of friends in Indiana, and one of his friends was the one who hooked us up with this entire show.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a Sweetwater connection.
Shout out Sweetwater.
Those reps are hardcore. I love the meme where it's like someone's funeral or whatever, and it's like, who's that guy? It's like, oh, it's a Sweetwater representative.
The only thing I've ever bought online from them was a power adapter, and I got calls for years and years and years. And they seemed they were genuinely concerned if I needed anything, you know?
Yeah, no, they don't. I mean, I will say they seem very friendly and they're definitely there to help, but I'm not used to that kind of customer service.
Stop there when you're going to play Indiana. I would recommend stop there.
I may never stop getting calls though, Anthony.
You keep thinking, yeah, and you think people are calling for an interview or something. It's not. It's Sweetwater.
Yeah, it's Sweetwater.
We're like talking about the whole like studio experience for this. Were all the songs pretty much fleshed out before going in studio, or was there some like writing and tweaking once you got there?
I'd say they were all pretty much in finished form. There were very few tweaks made in the process as far as like how the songs were previously written. Mm-hmm. I'd say probably the biggest one is there's a song called Better, and I mean it's at the end of the day actually probably a small thing, but initially that song was written without a chorus, like a full chorus in the beginning. There was only like a half chorus pretty much, and I wanted it to be that like a tease of chorus almost, and then have the real chorus come later. And Jim did not like that at all. He was like, why would you do that? Why won't you just give them the chorus right away? And so we talked about it a little bit, and we decided to do a full chorus in place of a half chorus. And then the only other one I can think of is in Ghostwriter. Initially, there was a very long instrumental break that did not have a repeat of like, feels like you're the ghostwriter. Like there was none of that. And he gave me such crap because he was just like, this is not a jam band. I was like, that's a little extreme, I think. But he honestly, at the end of the day, any disagreement or argument that we had, I always ended up kind of just laughing because it was like, I mean, maybe it was tense for a minute and then it would just lighten up right away. And really, at the end of the day, they gave me a lot of freedom, and these songs are pretty much exactly what I envisioned in my head.
Is this the first time, like, I'm trying to remember, because I mean, I'm sure we talked about on the last EP and stuff, but I mean, is this the first time really working with a producer? Have you had producers on previous releases?
I would count, people who I've worked in the past, I guess I would count definitely as producers because they've certainly put in their 2 cents and they have helped shape the recordings and make them what they are. I do think this is the first time where Jim, his only title, he is producer. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yes, of course he's like helping to engineer the session. He knows how to record, but his main, like, he has an idea for everything. He knows exactly what he wants it to sound like. And I think in the past, more when I'm working with other people, they've given me more of like the reins, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, like, what do you want to do here? And I love that. I appreciate that. And Jim, it's not like Jim didn't do that necessarily, but he definitely was the one steering the ship more so than it being like an equal, like, oh, okay, like, well, we're just going to record it. It's going to sound like that. And then we'll do a few different tweaks. It's like I'm saying, like, for him, it's like, no, we're recording that guitar 1,000,002 times until it sounds perfect.
This ain't the Grateful Dead. It's not a jam band. No, I totally get what you mean, because there's like, and that's what I mean. Like, I get what you're saying, like, not to like discredit other people, like, past producers, but there's like more of, here's a recommendation. I don't think you need, does the bridge need to go for this many measures versus like, no, you do not need this to have, cut that out, or, let's throw another chorus in and stuff, versus just like, well, I think maybe you should do this. Yeah, less recommendation, more like, no, like, this is probably the way you need to go, a little more, on that side.
And I appreciated the challenge. I think I appreciated it the most when it came to my vocals, because previously to recording these recordings, I was having a lot of vocal issues. And so I did go for voice therapy. I went for some voice lessons, and I've always had insecurities with my voice. I just have. And it's been hard to learn how to sing in a way that both benefits the music, but also is benefiting me and not like killing my voice. And so it was really kind of an eye opener to work with somebody who not only, yes, like driving you in a perfectionist type way, but he's also a singer. So he was kind of guiding me at the same time and teaching me, like, even, it sounds so small and maybe even silly, but when you're in the studio, like certain syllables and stuff and the way you're pronouncing things when you sing, some are harsher on your vocal cords than others. And it was kind of nice to be able to get that coaching in real time of like, okay, I hear you hitting it like this and it sounds very strained. Like, why don't you try hitting it like this? And it just, even the positioning of like for example, in Alone, I don't know if I'll explain this totally correctly, but in the chorus that alone, I've always held it as an O, and as a result, and I still sometimes fall back into bad habits, but like it almost was like sitting in here, and he was more like, do it more like alone, like as if it's like a weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it, like more in your, like the top of your,
I do get
like,
what
mouth, I guess. I know it sounds
saying.
odd, but like somehow that helped a lot, where it's like, oh, okay, it doesn't feel like such a like a push, you know what I mean? It just felt more like a natural coming out. So I really appreciated that. And I don't know, I think it made the record sound better to have somebody challenging me like that. Cause I don't know if, once again, not to discredit anybody I've worked with in the past, but I don't know if like anybody else really has had that sort of insight or whatever, cause they just might not be singing, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to coach somebody if you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, and I didn't know what to do. So I liked that aspect of it.
No, I mean, obviously I've never met the guy, but I've interviewed like producers who are just, straight up producers, not guy from a band who also like side produces this, that, like, producers. And when I talk to them, it's like people like that, like, nah, it's bad, but it's the person who, knows those things where it's like, no, like, say it this way, or if you do it this way, you'll get less strain, or like, it's those little nuances that I think make them the producer and that whole producer role. It's like, you don't need help writing a Stress Doll song. You know how to write a Stress Doll song. But it's like there's like the little things there that the producer can do where it's like, oh yeah, like to me, that's a producer. Like the way you're explaining it, like even though at times it's probably not fun when it's happening, it's like that you kind of need, like that guy's doing his job. Like that guy's really doing it's like he's there for what he was hired to do, I would say.
Exactly.
But how about I know you've played, actually, because when I saw you a couple weeks ago, you played quite a few new songs. Like how much of the record have you been able to play live so far? Have you pretty much played the whole thing live, or?
I was gonna say we've pretty much played all of it. The only song that we haven't played yet is Better, and that's going to be a premiere at the release show on May 17th. That I guess people are listening to the show on May 17th, but at Revolution Gallery, it'll be fun.
They're listening to a podcast that comes out Monday, though, so they do have time to go.
They have some time, okay.
They're listening to the radio show. You better like run up there right now.
Right this very moment.
You better you're gonna have to get up there quite fast. But radio show, hey, that's a good start to the weekend.
Actually, something that will happen after that initial May 17th release show is Hi-Fi Hits in Buffalo. Ooh. On Sunday. We're going to be playing, Jordan and I, the guitar player, will be playing a little acoustic set and selling copies of the album there as well. So
that's one of my favorite record stores up there.
Yeah, I love Hi-Fi Hits.
I get very sad and happy. I don't know what word you want to call it when they give you the bag, the record theater bags when you buy stuff there. It like makes me happy and sad all at the same time.
Bittersweet.
Yes, bittersweet. That's the word I think that's the word I was looking for, was bittersweet.
That's a perfect description. Record theater was just so cool. I miss it.
I miss very much that. And I don't know if you shopped at New World Records, but that's another one I miss every time I drive by it. And I forget what it is now, but whatever it is, it makes me very sad. It's no longer a record store.
Yes, I loved New World Records. Just so much nostalgia. I mean, once Hi-Fi Hits and Revolver is great too, but I'd say like those are going to be the two that the closest you're going to get to what was. But yeah, just a lot of great memories from record theater. I used to go on the weekends all the time, and they would have sales. I think it was Sunday mornings. They would always like do this big sale where it was like, I don't remember how much off. I mean, I think it grew as the store was beginning at shutting down. First it's like 25, 50, 75, 80. But I loved the used CD section, as we've discussed. I'm a CD person through and through, but I found some really cool stuff in that section. I don't know.
Lots of promos. I don't know if you remember the promos they had, like the ones that would come in cardboard sleeves. Like it'd be a full album, but it's like the ones that they'd give out to radio stations and stuff. And they'd be like 75 cents, but like it's a really rare promo. Like there are things where it's like if you go look them up, you can't just find the promo version. They'd be like 75 cents over there.
It's super cool.
Very strong poster game too, because I was just going through some old band posters and couldn't believe some of the ones I had, and they were all from a record theater. Like long after the fact that I shouldn't have been able to find these posters probably either. Like some really good 90s ones that I bought in like 2010 kind of deal.
What kind of posters? What bands? I'm curious.
Like Punk-O-Rama, like the compilation that Epitaph used to do. So that was just a bunch of them. Okay. Really old Green Day one from like the Warning era. I think I got one from like the Insomniac era. Oh, what else? Really nice old Rancid one.
Oh, wow.
A lot of 90s like skate punk. A lot of skate punk in there.
Posters. Do you remember FYE?
That's like it was one of the only record stores that we had in Jamestown. So yes, I bought many albums there. If I wasn't buying stuff up at like Record Theater or New World Records, I was buying it at like Kmart or FYE down here.
Yeah, that's what we would do. FYE. I remember being in junior high and high school, and my friend and I would go to FYE, and we would just look at all the posters in the back, and we'd look at bands and band guys that we thought were cute. Let's go look at that one poster again of Pete Wentz. So ridiculous.
Not to go on too much of a tangent, but boy, is it weird when the one in the Galleria closed and there's now an FYE again in the Galleria Mall up there, and they like sell I brought my friend in there to prove to him. I'm like, do you want to go see the CD section in here? He's like, what's this gonna? I'm like, do you want to go see what FYE sells in 2024? And it's like 3 rows of records, 1 square of CDs, and I think there were like some DVDs shoved in a corner somewhere.
Well, I'm shocked there's even a square of CDs. I thought it was all like plushies and candy. That's what I saw when I walked by it.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I know you got to get with the times, but yeah, like when you're talking about the FYE of yesteryear, like you can't go in there and just look at Pete Wentz posters anymore. It's a new FYE.
Those kids are missing out because those were good days.
Oh, How about, like you re-recorded, we talked a little bit about it, but a few of the older songs from your catalog did make it on the new album. Were there any other ones you were considering re-recording for Queen of No that didn't make the cut? Were there any other ones from the back catalog you're like, ooh, we should redo this?
I guess not. No, there wasn't really anything else that came to mind. I think I redid Alone initially because that was one that when I released it the first time, I it was a me problem. Like I wasn't happy with my vocal in the chorus. I just wasn't. Like I remember like after hearing it a little bit, I was like, ugh, like I just feel like I could have done that way better. And honestly, recording all the vocals on Forward, I just felt insecure and weird because like it just didn't feel right somehow. Like I felt like I was pushing way too hard, whatever. So Alone was one that I felt like had a lot of more potential to be done better. So it was kind of a reason why I wanted to do that one again. Like I said, vocally for myself. But then other than that, Crazy was one that they asked if I would consider redoing because they really liked Crazy at the label. And then Spark was one I had wanted to redo for a long time because Spark actually, we recorded that with Wolf back in like 2015, maybe
Oh,
like
wow.
2014, 2015. It was a B-side to It's Electric. And I just have always really liked that song. And I thought it would be nice to get a different take on it. Those are the three re-recordings.
They work really well. I think I told you, but like, I mean, sometimes bands will re-record songs, and it's like, to be honest, you're like, well, like, why did you do that? Like, what was you hear it, and you're like, well, you can do it, but why? But with yours, they all really work. Like, there's like none of the re-recordings. I'm not sitting there going like, oh, but like the original. Like, I think all of them benefited from it, like in a good way. They're all good songs, anyways. Before, but like none of them I'm like, oh, well, that's almost like a waste of, why don't you put a new song there? I'm like, they all work well with the songs. They're all sequenced well again, like all of that, where it makes sense to have them on there, which truthfully, that doesn't always happen. So like, again, compliments to you for, I think the ones that did get picked, I think they worked really well with everything.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it.
But let's you mentioned a little bit earlier, but I was also thinking about, considering last time we talked, I don't think you were doing anything in radio at the time, and now you were back on the radio. So that's very cool. I was gonna ask you a little bit about that. You've returned to radio since we last spoke. You're on the scene now up in on WBFO, I should say. How did you kind of get back into radio? Because like I think last time we were talking, it was interesting. I think you were kind of like you would be interested in doing it, but you weren't looking to do it again.
Yeah.
You were kind of like there.
So how that all happened was when WBFO The Bridge was first announced as a station, that was the first time I had felt interested in potentially getting back into radio because I really liked their programming. They didn't have a team yet behind it aside from the people who were already working at WBFO. They were still seeking a program director. They were still seeking other positions. So when I tried to apply, there was no one to even accept that application. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, this is not the time, was the answer I got. And I tried a few different times because I've, from working previously in radio, I knew of some people who worked currently at WNED, WBFO. So I was kind of poking around, and then, it wasn't getting anywhere. So I was like, okay, whatever, I'm just going to let it go. But then what ended up happening was that when they did hire a PD, it was Tiffany Bentley. And Tiffany was my coworker at Alternative Buffalo years ago. And then she actually left Alt Buffalo probably in 2016, I want to say, and became music director over at The Edge 103.3. So she was working in radio regularly. As you know, I ended up leaving Alt Buffalo to move to Nashville, then came back and then was not involved in radio anymore. Her and I would see each other around like very occasionally, maybe at like a local show or something, just say hello. But then once I heard that she was PD, I thought, well, I'm going to send her some of this new Stress Style stuff because I'm curious at what her opinion is on it and if she'd be willing to possibly play it at the station. And when I did that, she shot back at me, also, I'm wondering, would you be interested in working in radio again? And I was kind of like, I don't know. In what capacity are you thinking? And she was like, well, we are thinking of finding a host for a regional music program. And obviously that caught my interest because that's exactly what I was doing when I worked at Alt Buffalo. And that was frankly a big reason why I was so passionate about my job in commercial radio was because I had that, you know what I mean? And that's not to
Yeah.
speak ill of people who work in commercial radio, but just there was a lot about commercial radio that I didn't necessarily like.
Yeah,
Like, and
understandable.
yeah, and so, but that was what my main job was, and that's kind of what made me happy in that job. So when she offered that and put that on the table, I was immediately intrigued, and that's how it came to be. So we're coming up on a year that the show has been on the air, which is really cool.
Congrats on that. That's a
Thanks.
huge congrats. I was gonna ask how long you've been doing it. I was like, I thought you were almost at least to a year.
Yeah, almost to a year. At the end of May, it will be a year.
Was there anything like getting back into like the world of radio? Was there anything where like you had to shake off the rust, or would it all just kind of come back pretty easy? It was just
Oh,
like,
for sure.
oh, okay, there.
For sure. Yeah. I even in this interview, I'm trying to watch what I say. I think I have a lot of verbal mannerisms that creep in, and the worst ones that I feel, because even when I cut out the likes and the you knows, so is one that I do all the time. So, and then those have been really hard to get rid of. I felt like in my previous job, I by the end of it, I got to a really good place where I felt like I was good at eliminating those things. It's learning it all over again. And then too, just having a natural flow and kind of figuring out how you're presenting the information and everything. I mean, you know what it's like.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like just on the air when you're trying to think of things to talk about. Like, and it's made a lot easier in my job because when people usually submit their music, they give you a piece of trivia about their art. That makes it way easier than when you're trying to necessarily be totally off the cuff. There's an right there. But yeah, and I feel like finally, probably like 6 months into it, it started to feel really like, okay, this feels good again.
You're back into the like flow of it. And
Yeah,
everything.
but it takes a while.
I can tell you, I don't know that everybody can relate, but like when you've had to put a couple times where like if you're gonna send music, like send like a file, like an MP3 or something, not like a Spotify link. I just like I can relate to that in a way probably most. I don't know how many people are relating to those posts when you put that up, but just know I'm watching and go, yeah, you're damn right. Please, like I just want to repost it. I want to repost it onto the Power Chord Hours account. Like I just hope you know how deeply I relate to that. Quit sending me Spotify links.
I know, it's like it just cracks me up. So I've had to do, as you've seen several times, and put out these reminders. And the last one I put out, it was a video, and I was trying. My friend Josh, the drummer of the band, actually like messaged me privately and said, "I feel like you've done these many times." And I'm like, "Yeah, I was really worried. I sounded very annoyed in the video. Like I was trying to like taper sounding annoyed. Like, please send me." But you know, I was like, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes people, I think maybe they just get really excited or they don't necessarily understand the form, and so they just go with what they know and they send it without really reading carefully. But if anyone here is listening or watching this who is an artist, please, 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 you are doing yourself a favor by reading the instructions and being careful about it. Because I feel like there's so many hosts. I've had this experience as an artist. There's so many hosts that they're not going to give you the time of day if you don't follow the instructions. They don't care. Like, why should they care? I just think it's going to benefit you in the long run, not only for the scene, but for any show that you submit your music to. Just try and pay attention.
I would 100% say, because yes, even not that my email is flowing with thousands and thousands of band submissions, but it's like if you open the email and there's 15 of them, the ones that sent you a download are probably going to get checked out a little faster than the ones that I have to go to a link to, which even if I like it, I don't have a way to play it. Like it just doesn't work that way. I can't physically play it. Even if I listen to your song, I just can't play it. So
I mean, I try and listen to everything I do. Despite sometimes getting a little annoyed that people aren't following the directions. I do listen to everything. And if something sounds great, I'm not going to just let it pass by because they didn't, I'm going to contact them and be like, hey, please send me an actual file I can download. So I don't want anyone to think that it's like, oh, well, she's just a jerk who's like omitting everybody who's like, no, but it is appreciated when you do it right the first time.
Now I have to throw in too. Yeah, I'm not like hitting delete on everybody's emails either. If you send it to me, I still listen. If it's good, I'll ask for a download. But yeah, I guess I also don't want to make it sound like I just delete everything someone sends me.
I know you don't do that.
Has that helped you at all? Like, I mean, because again, you already know quite a bit about local music. You're ingrained in it. But like, have you learned any like genres or little pockets of the local scene and different scenes going on? Have you kind of learned any of that through doing the show?
Oh, definitely. So let's see. I'd say for sure the whole Canadian scene that I've been turned on to has been huge. I didn't really know about the music going on in Toronto, aside from the big stuff that we all know about. And I listen to 102.1 pretty regularly. I still love the Canadian edge, because we've always gotten it in Buffalo. So I know some bands from that, but like to hear bands that are more on an indie level has been really awesome. Not just bands, but artists. And I've loved that. And even like in Buffalo, I mean, yeah, ingrained in the scene, sure. But let's be real, like most of the music that I am around is typically like alternative punk. So like to get more access to genres outside of that has been really awesome. And to like have once again like be more aware of all of the amazing art that we have going on in this community has been great. That's why I'm always encouraging people to spread the word about the show, because I do a lot of research in my own time. I I end up on Spotify a lot or social media. I click around on people's profiles. I look at like the recommended, if you like this artist, then who else you're going to like, because usually those are other local artists as well. Or on Instagram, I'll see like who they're following, who's following them. I mean, like not to be a creepy stalker, but like it is what you have to do in order to find more artists, because there's a lot of people who just don't even know the show exists. So I'm regularly trying to reach out to artists in Western New York and Southern Ontario. But I really love it when people come to me too, because like there's a likelihood that I will miss you. And like there's also a lot of artists that don't ever list their email addresses or a way to contact them. And so I don't have a way to even reach out to them. So it just, I don't know, it's helpful when people spread the word about the program, because I recognize there's a lot that I don't know. And I want to know. Like I love to know. I want to know about the other artists in our community, because I think that's what makes a music community vibrant and rich, is like being able to expose all of this talent.
Oh, totally. No, I feel the same way of hosting my other show, Arts on Fire, where I mean, on the Power Chord Hour, yes, I talk to a lot of musicians, but like you said, in a certain world, like I talk within a like world of music. Not like I'm like, interviewing people of thousands of different genres, where it's kind of nice where it opens up, go like, oh, that's also going on. Didn't know that was going on, or didn't know that was really a thing around here. So yeah, that's kind of a perk of doing kind of the local aspect of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's so much like folk, pop, hip hop. We have some like Latin American music that's been submitted. We had some, like indigenous music that was submitted. Like there's just like so much going on that at first glance, when I'm at a stress style show or something, I'm not going to get exposed to, because most of the other artists on the bill just are kind of fitted around, that kind of music, which is like rock, which I love. Don't get me wrong. But like, I think it's, I don't know, really cool to be introduced to other artists.
Yeah. And you want to know scenes are existing everywhere. It's not like you just want your one scene to exist. You want like to know there's things going on everywhere. I want to know there's a house show going on down the street that I'm not like, maybe it's not something I'm at. Maybe I don't even know what's going on, but I hope it's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing. But I mean, great talking to you, Chelsea. As we start to close this out, I mean, we've got a new record. If they're listening to the radio show, the record is out and we have 3 hours. So I think we'll play the record for them. But where should we send people? Where are you online? Where can we find the new album? All that good stuff. Plug away for us.
Plug away. Okay. Well, you can go to stressedowlsmusic.com. That has all the social media links and the streaming links, whatever. But otherwise, pretty much if you just search Stress Styles or Stress Styles Music on any form of social media, you're going to find me and the band. And other than that, if you want to listen to the scene on WBFO The Bridge, you can go to wbfo.org/the-bridge. Am I allowed to plug that? I know we're on a different radio.
Oh, no, you're absolutely allowed.
Okay. And
no territory stuff here. You're totally cool. Go ahead.
Great. And I also, to put a little tidbit about the scene, every week, unfortunately, we don't have it set up yet where I can offer the show as a podcast or something that you can re-listen to, but I do make a Spotify playlist every week of all the songs that are played, and I link that on, once again, my instagram.com/stressstyles, or if you go to the Stress Styles Spotify profile, there's the playlist is on my profile. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Anthony.
Absolutely. Any shows coming up too? I mean, again, people are listening in Jamestown and stuff, so it's not very far to go up to Buffalo, or you just played Fredonia recently. Like any other shows to coming up, I guess, past May 17th?
Yes, actually, we have a lot of local shows this summer, all in Buffalo. But I think the first one is in East Aurora, June 8th, East Aurora Festival. We're going to be playing, I want to say it's called like Wall and Winers Hotel or something. But we're playing that at like 7 p.m. at night, I want to say. Like I said, more details are always up at stressedowsmusic.com. But we're also doing Larkinville. People in Buffalo will know about Larkinville. We're doing Food Truck Tuesday. That's July 2nd. Sally and I are playing at the AKG Museum, June 27th. Nice. Sally Schaefer, violinist. I know you know her, Anthony, but she's incredible to anyone who's listening or watching, and you don't want to miss that. There's quite a few shows, and maybe even some that aren't totally finalized yet. I can't talk about them yet, but some exciting other things. So yeah, stressedowsmusic.com to check out all shows.
Very, very exciting. Did we miss anything? Anything else to let the good people know before we close this out?
No, I don't think so. I'd say just please go stream Stressed Owls. If you feel so inclined, buy a CD. They're going to be available online for sale on my Bandcamp, and your support is appreciated more than you know.
Very nice, very nice. If you're listening to the radio show, we're going to play you some Queen of No right now. If you're listening to the podcast, go buy that thing. Go purchase it. But Chelsea, great talking to you. I'm Anthony Merchant, and you're tuned in to the Power Chord Hour.